Believe is a project of writing democracy and seeks to promote a discussion about those seemingly shared realities that are, in the words of historian Eric Foner, essentially contested ideas. In this interview, Kelly Dent interviews Jeff Grabill on the nature of democracy in the current moment.
You know, democracy as a term and a concept is complicated and is probably so fraught with problems that it may not be the best term in the entire world to use for the kind of project that we're imagining. Participation may be the more appropriate functional and conceptual term. And with regard to how writing serves participation, I think it's more critical than it ever has been before. Writing and rhetoric have always been core to the democratic project and the participatory project, except when they haven't. So any examination of the history of rhetoric shows that it comes and goes as societies are more or less participatory. And at the same time, the rhetorical project sometimes doesn't serve the powerless very well, and it sometimes doesn't foster the kinds of broadly participatory practices that we might imagine and hope for. But even given that, given the current institutional and bureaucratic and technological complexity of the lives of the people that I've studied and worked with over the last few years, writing is fundamental to how they have to do the work that they want to do for community change. And so without writing and without the practices of writing, they literally can't do the work that they need to do. And so I think writing and other kinds of communicative work, and the more mundane and particular and boring the better as far as I'm concerned, are essential to the processes of assembling the kinds of groups and collectives that are required to do participatory work in the current moment. And I think for me, that's an important concept, this notion of group versus individual. And it doesn't have to be a contentious versus, but in the sense of the kinds of conceptual work and the ways in which we're thinking about writing a democracy, it's groups that write, and it's groups that act, and it's groups that are the rhetor, if you will, in the contemporary scene. And so writing and those kinds of mundane communicative practices are fundamental to assembling the kinds of groups that are required to make change. And this is why writing is terribly important, and why we need to understand writing in that way and teach writing in that way, so that we can prepare students and other kinds of community members to assemble the collectives they need to be effective.
To learn more about writing democracy and This We Believe, as well as respond to this interview, please visit http://writingdemocracy.wordpress.com.